Okay, now when we're talking about fractions and mixed numbers, you need to know how to compare fractions. You need to know how to make things look the same in order to have a really good idea of comparing things, right? I know these are the same because they're two markers, so the only difference is one is blue and one is red. So the more similar we can make two things look, the easier it's going to be to compare. I know these are very obviously different because of the color, but they're only different obviously because they look the same, if that makes sense. So first of all, it's elementary school review, mixed numbers, improper fractions, but we still need a little refresher. So we can multiply or divide a fraction, or divide a fraction's numerator, and the denominator by the same number, that's not zero, and doesn't change its value. So I can change a fraction as much as I want to make it look like something else, and that comes in handy in math. The guys who use your calculators, probably not. You're not going to really see that. But when you're trying to use your mind, you really need to know how to make things look the same. So for instance, I got to rewrite the following as a different fraction. So over here, I could just multiply both by 2, and I can come up with a different fraction that is the same. Okay? And you should know how to do this because when you're adding fractions, the denominators need to be the same before you can add the numerator. So it's a pretty important process when you're using fractions. This is like as basic as it comes, just rewriting a fraction. Now we always think of multiplication. Our brains are wired to make things bigger because it's easier, but that's usually the worst thing you can do. You always want to make things smaller if you can. Over here you can't with a 1 and a 3. But over here, instead of going to a 6 over 24, I rather get rid of a 6. I want to write as little as possible. I like writing 1s, I like writing 2s. So I want to divide by 6 in this case, even though it's not wrong to multiply both by 2. Right? There's always better choices to make. Some of you might divide by 2 and you get 3 over 6. That's fine. But the best scenario is dividing by 6 and I get negative 1 over 2. And this is the same fraction. Again, over here, I can multiply by 2, I can multiply by 3, but they're both even numbers, so I'm going to choose to divide both of them by 2. Again, I'm dividing or multiplying by the same number. And this is going to be 13 over 5. Now, I like to end with this because in grade 9, the first thing kids think is like, this is bad. It's called improper, so it's not proper. That's a horrible word for a fraction, improper fraction. It is proper. 13 over 5 is a great number. If you want to understand what 13 over 5 means, maybe you want to change it to a mixed number. If you want to change it to a decimal or something, because we need to know how many 5s are in the 13. That's what we need to know to calculate. So changing to an improper fraction and to a mixed number is useful for our minds to do math. So for instance, just a reminder, an improper fraction, to go to a mixed number, I need to figure out, well, if I have 11 slices of pizza and they're in quarters, how many full pizzas do I have basically? Well, for sure I have 2, because 4 slices of 2 pizzas is gonna give me 8, and that's in 11. So I have to figure out the highest multiple that goes into 11. So that's gonna be 4 times 2. So this is gonna be a 2, and 8 to 11 are 3 apart. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. How many times does 4 go into an 11? That's your whole number. And then whatever's left from that multiple, so for instance, this is going to be 4 times 2 is 8. So this is my whole number. And then from 8 to 11, there's going to be 3 quarters left. And that's it. Now this is really easy. Look, 2 3/4, this is 2.75. Look how quickly I can change that to a decimal. It's not so quick over here, unless you're really good with quarters, which you should be because of money. Okay? But changing it to a mixed fraction helps us with mental math, okay, and estimation. Over here I have this one, which is 26 over 10. I could change it to a mixed number from here, but sometimes it's harder, but it's still not wrong. So I know that there's 2 10s in a 26, so there's 2. And then if I take away those 2 10s, I'm going to get 6 tenths left. I'm left with 6. So again, if I do 10 times 2, that's 20. So I'm going to take 20 away from the 26, and I'm left with 6, because this represents the 20 right here. Now, I could reduce this. This is going to be 2 3/5. And again, really easy to write this as a decimal. This is 2.6, if you know your fifths. And you might be arguing, sir, it's way more a little less difficult to do this. This is just 2.6 divided by 10 with the decimal. Yeah, sure, because it's a 10. Okay, but we still need to know, if you know all of your denominators, which I will teach you, you could do crazy mental math with decimals. People are going to think you're a wizard. Okay, let's go to this one. How many 3s are in 17? Well, you can go 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, Ding, ding, ding. 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know there are 5 3s in a 17, and from 15 to 17, there are 2/3 left. And this, if I want to represent it as a fraction, this is just 5.6 repeating, if you know your thirds. Okay, so changing to a mixed number, kind of useless mathematically, but really useful to do mental math. And you'll see that as you go on. If you picture the mixed number, but you work in the improper fraction, life will be much easier. Okay, that's it, just a little refresher on fractions.